When a quiet adoption hearing takes an unexpected turn, a young girl's heartfelt confession leaves everyone in the courtroom speechless. But what she reveals isn't just about her, it's a truth that changes her foster father's life forever. The sound of rain pattered softly against the windows as Daniel Mercer sat at his kitchen table, a cup of coffee growing cold in his hands. He glanced at the clock on the wall. It was almost time. Today, he would meet Adeline Harper, the young girl who would soon become a part of his life. Daniel had always believed in the power of kindness and the importance of giving back. After losing his own parents at a young age, he understood what it felt like to navigate the world alone. It was that understanding that had driven him to become a foster parent. Over the past few years, he had provided a home to several children, but something about Adeline's file had struck a chord with him. Adeline Harper was 7 years old, a quiet girl with a love for art and a past filled with loss. Her parents had died in a car accident when she was just 3, and she had spent the years since moving between foster homes. The notes in her file described her as shy and reserved, but with a spark of creativity that shone through in her drawings. Daniel couldn't help but feel a connection to her story. He knew what it was like to lose family and to long for stability. The doorbell rang, pulling him from his thoughts. He set his cup down and walked to the door, taking a deep breath before opening it. Standing there was a social worker, a kind-looking woman named Carla Rivera, holding an umbrella in one hand. Beside her stood a small girl clutching a worn backpack, her dark hair slicked with rain. "Mr. Mercer," Carla said with a warm smile, "this is Adeline." Daniel crouched down to Adeline's level, offering her a gentle smile. "Hi, Adeline," he said softly. "It's nice to meet you. Come on in and get out of the rain." Adeline hesitated for a moment before stepping inside, her wide eyes scanning the cozy living room. Daniel noticed the way she clutched the strap of her backpack, as if it were a lifeline. "You're welcome to take a seat," he said, gesturing to the couch. "Are you hungry? Thirsty?" She shook her head, her voice barely above a whisper. "No, thank you." Carla gave Daniel a reassuring nod. "She's a little shy at first, but she'll warm up once she gets comfortable. You're good with kids, I'm sure you'll do great." After going over some final paperwork, Carla left, promising to check in later in the week. Daniel turned his attention back to Adeline, who was now sitting stiffly on the edge of the couch, her hands folded tightly in her lap. "I know this is all new," he said, sitting down across from her. "But I want you to know that you're safe here. This is your home now, and you can take your time settling in." Adeline nodded, her gaze fixed on the floor. Daniel decided to give her space, knowing that trust would take time. "I'll be in the kitchen if you need anything," he said, standing up. "And if you feel like drawing or reading, there are some books and supplies in the corner over there." He left her alone for a while, allowing her to explore at her own pace. From the kitchen, he occasionally glanced toward the living room, watching as she hesitantly picked up a sketchbook and a pencil. She began to draw, her small hands moving carefully over the page. Later that evening, Daniel prepared a simple dinner, spaghetti and garlic bread, and called Adeline to the table. She sat across from him, eating quietly but managing a small smile when he complimented her drawing, which she had left on the coffee table. "That's a beautiful tree," he said. "Did you see it somewhere, or is it from your imagination?" Adeline's voice was soft but steady. "It's from a park I used to go to with my mom." Daniel nodded, his chest tightening at the mention of her mother. "She must have loved taking you there." Adeline nodded, her expression wistful. "She did. We'd sit under the big tree and have picnics." For the first time, Daniel saw a glimpse of the little girl beneath the quiet exterior, a child who had known love and joy but had also endured great loss. He realized that helping her heal would require patience, understanding, and a lot of love. That night, as Daniel tucked Adeline into bed, he noticed that she had placed her drawing on the nightstand beside her. "Good night, Adeline," he said, his voice warm. "I'm glad you're here." She looked up at him, her eyes hesitant but grateful. "Good night," she whispered. As Daniel turned off the light and closed the door, he felt a sense of purpose settling over him. Adeline's journey to trust and healing would not be easy, but he was determined to give her the home and stability she deserved. Little did he know, their story would soon take an unexpected turn, one that would change both of their lives forever. The next morning, Daniel woke up early, determined to make Adeline's first full day with him a good one. He prepared a simple breakfast of pancakes and fruit, setting the table with care. As he poured syrup over a stack of pancakes, he heard the soft sound of footsteps approaching. Adeline appeared in the doorway, her dark hair slightly tousled and her small hands clutching the edge of her sweater. "Good morning," she said quietly. "Good morning, Adeline," Daniel replied with a warm smile. "I hope you like pancakes. I made plenty." She nodded, sitting down at the table. Her movements were careful, as though she wasn't sure where she fit in yet. Daniel noticed how her eyes darted around the room, taking in her surroundings with quiet curiosity. "Did you sleep okay?" he asked as he poured her a glass of orange juice. Adeline nodded again. "It's a nice room," she said softly. "Thank you." "You're welcome," Daniel replied, glad to see her opening up, even if just a little. "I'm glad you like it. This is your home now, so you can make it your own." As they ate, Daniel made a gentle effort to get to know her better. He asked her about her favorite colors, foods, and hobbies, and she answered in short but thoughtful sentences. He learned that she loved drawing, especially trees and animals, and that her favorite color was green because it reminded her of nature. After breakfast, Daniel suggested they go shopping for some things to personalize her room. "We can pick out some posters, maybe some new bedding, or anything else you'd like," he said. "How does that sound?" Adeline's eyes lit up slightly. "Can I get some plants? I like taking care of them." "Of course," Daniel said with a grin. "We'll get as many as you want." At the store, Daniel noticed how Adeline's demeanor began to change. She moved through the aisles with growing confidence, carefully selecting items for her room. She chose a few small potted plants, a bright green comforter, and a set of fairy lights. When they reached the art supplies section, her face lit up. "Can I get some sketch pads and pencils?" she asked, holding up a set with a hopeful expression. "Absolutely," Daniel said. "Anything else you need?" Adeline hesitated for a moment before adding a pack of colored markers to the cart. "Thank you," she said quietly, but the gratitude in her voice was unmistakable. When they returned home, Adeline spent the afternoon arranging her room. Daniel helped her hang the fairy lights and place the plants on the windowsill. By the time they were finished, the space looked vibrant and full of personality, just like her. "This looks amazing," Daniel said, stepping back to admire the room. "You've got a real eye for design." Adeline smiled, a genuine expression that made Daniel's heart swell. "It feels like mine now," she said. Later that evening, they settled into the living room for a movie. Daniel let Adeline choose, and she picked an animated film about a girl who loved to draw. As they watched, Daniel noticed how Adeline's guard seemed to drop further. She laughed at the funny parts and leaned slightly against the armrest, her body language more relaxed. "Do you draw like that?" Daniel asked during a scene where the main character was sketching a mural. "Not yet," Adeline replied with a small grin. "But maybe someday." "You've got plenty of time to practice," Daniel said. "And I'll be here to cheer you on." As the credits rolled, Adeline turned to Daniel with a curious expression. "Why did you decide to be a foster parent?" she asked. Daniel paused, considering his answer. "Because I know what it's like to need someone," he said honestly. "I lost my parents when I was young, and I was lucky to have people step in and help me. I wanted to do the same for someone else." Adeline looked down at her hands, her voice soft. Do you think I'll ever feel normal again? Daniel's chest tightened at her question. I think normal looks different for everyone, he said. But I do think you'll find your own version of it. And I'll be here to help you every step of the way. Adeline nodded, her eyes filled with a mix of hope and uncertainty. Okay, she said. Thank you. As she headed off to bed, Daniel sat in the quiet living room, reflecting on the day. It was a small step, but he could feel the beginnings of trust forming between them. He knew there were still challenges ahead, but he was determined to help Adeline feel safe and loved. Little did he know, her quiet gratitude and budding trust were setting the stage for a revelation that would change everything. For now, though, he allowed himself to feel a sense of peace, knowing they were on the right path. Over the next few weeks, Adeline began to settle into her new routine at Daniel's home. The walls that she had built around herself started to come down, little by little. Daniel noticed how she smiled more often, how her laughter occasionally filled the house, and how she had started to leave her drawings scattered around the living room as though she felt more at ease. One morning, as Daniel prepared breakfast, Adeline walked into the kitchen carrying a folder. She hesitated for a moment before placing it on the counter. What's this? Daniel asked, setting down the spatula he had been using to flip pancakes. They're my drawings, Adeline said softly. I thought you might want to see them. Daniel opened the folder, his eyes widening as he flipped through the pages. Each drawing was more detailed than the last, landscapes filled with trees and rolling hills, animals that looked almost lifelike, and portraits of people with expressive faces. These are incredible, Adeline, he said, his voice full of admiration. You're really talented. Adeline blushed, but there was a flicker of pride in her eyes. Thanks, she said. I like drawing because it makes me feel safe. Like I can create a world where everything makes sense. Daniel smiled warmly. I think that's a beautiful way to look at it. And you're really good at capturing emotions in your drawings. It's like you tell a story with every picture. Adeline's smile grew, and for the first time, Daniel saw her beam with confidence. Maybe one day I'll be a real artist, she said. I have no doubt you will be, Daniel replied. And I'll be your biggest fan. That weekend, Daniel decided to take Adeline to a local art gallery. He thought it would inspire her and show her that her dream of becoming an artist was possible. As they walked through the gallery, Adeline's eyes lit up with excitement, and she peppered Daniel with questions about the paintings and sculptures. Do you think these artists started small, like me? She asked, pausing in front of a large canvas filled with abstract colors. I think every artist starts somewhere, Daniel said. What matters is that they keep going, even when it's hard. Adeline nodded, her expression thoughtful. I'm going to keep going, she said firmly. I want to make something that people remember. After the gallery visit, they stopped by a local cafe for lunch. As they ate, Adeline grew quiet, her gaze fixed on the table. What's on your mind? Daniel asked gently. Adeline hesitated before speaking. Do you ever think about your parents? She asked. Daniel's chest tightened at the question. I do, he said. I think about them a lot. I miss them, but I also try to remember the good times we had together. That's what helps me. Adeline nodded slowly. I miss my mom, she admitted. Sometimes I try to remember her voice, but it's hard. Daniel reached across the table, placing a comforting hand on hers. It's okay to miss her, he said. And it's okay to talk about her whenever you want. I'm here to listen. Adeline's eyes welled up with tears, but she quickly wiped them away. Thanks, Daniel, she said softly. That evening, as they sat in the living room, Adeline brought out her sketchpad and began drawing. Daniel watched as her pencil moved across the page with precision and focus. After a while, she held up the drawing, a picture of a large tree with two figures sitting beneath it. This is us, she said, handing it to Daniel. The tree is from the park where I used to go with my mom. But now it's where we go. Daniel's throat tightened with emotion as he looked at the drawing. This is beautiful, Adeline, he said. Thank you for sharing this with me. It's my way of saying thanks, Adeline said, her voice steady. For everything. That night, as Daniel tucked Adeline into bed, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were on the verge of something important. She was opening up, trusting him in ways he hadn't expected so soon. But there was also a weight in her eyes, something unspoken that she seemed hesitant to share. As Daniel turned off the light and closed her door, he resolved to give her the time and space she needed. Whatever she was holding back, he knew she would tell him when she was ready. For now, he focused on the progress they had made and the bond that was growing stronger every day. Little did he know, the secret Adeline carried would soon come to light, shaking the foundation of everything they had built together. The days rolled on, and Daniel continued to notice subtle changes in Adeline. She was opening up more and more, but there was still an occasional shadow in her eyes, a hesitation that suggested she was holding something back. He didn't press her, trusting that she would speak when she was ready. But the curiosity and concern lingered at the back of his mind. One evening, after dinner, Daniel decided to revisit a topic they hadn't spoken about in much detail before, Adeline's life before she came to live with him. He wanted to tread carefully, knowing how sensitive the subject was. As they sat on the couch, Adeline sketching in her notebook, Daniel asked gently, "Addie, do you ever think about your time with your mom? About things you might want to remember?" Adeline paused, her pencil hovering over the page. "Sometimes," she said quietly. "I think about the park we used to go to. And the way she used to braid my hair. She always made sure it looked nice, even when we didn't have much." Daniel smiled warmly. "She sounds like she really loved you." "She did," Adeline said, a small smile tugging at her lips. "She always said I was her shining star. She even gave me a necklace once with a little star charm on it. But I lost it." Her voice wavered slightly, and Daniel noticed her hands trembling as she gripped the pencil. "It's okay, Addie," he said softly. "It's not about the necklace, it's about how much she cared for you. You still have that, no matter what." Adeline nodded, but her expression grew distant. She set the sketchpad aside and pulled her knees up to her chest. "There's something I've been meaning to tell you," she said hesitantly. Daniel's heart quickened. "You can tell me anything," he said, his voice steady. Adeline hesitated, then looked him in the eye. "When I was little, before the accident, my mom used to talk about someone. A friend she trusted. She said he was a really good person, and she thought about asking him for help." Daniel tilted his head, curious. "Did she ever tell you his name?" Adeline nodded slowly. "She called him Danny." Daniel's chest tightened. "Danny," he repeated, his voice almost a whisper. "I didn't remember it at first," Adeline continued, "but then, when I came here and met you, it made sense. You're Danny, aren't you? The one she was talking about?" The room seemed to grow still. Daniel felt his breath catch in his throat as memories flooded back. Years ago, he had known a woman named Margaret Harper. They had met during a community outreach program he volunteered for, and though their time together had been brief, he had been struck by her warmth and resilience. She had spoken about her daughter, her struggles as a single mother, and her hope for a better future. I knew your mom," Daniel said finally, his voice thick with emotion. "I didn't realize at first because it's been so many years. But yes, I was Danny." Adeline's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't look away. "She told me you were the kindest person she'd ever met. She said you helped her when no one else would." Daniel swallowed hard, his emotions threatening to overwhelm him. "She was an incredible woman, Addie. She loved you so much. I'm so sorry I didn't realize it sooner." "It's okay," Adeline said, her voice trembling. I'm just glad I found you." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the revelation settling between them. Daniel reached out, placing a hand on Adeline's shoulder. "I promised your mom I would help anyone who needed it. I just never imagined it would be you. But I'm so glad it is." Adeline leaned into his touch, her tears falling freely now. "Thank you for taking care of me," she whispered. "Thank you for being here." "Your family, Addie," Daniel said, his voice steady. "And I'll always be here for you. Always." That night, as Daniel lay awake in bed, he thought about Margaret and the twist of fate that had brought Adeline into his life. He felt a deep sense of gratitude and responsibility, knowing that he had been given a chance to honor his promise to her. And for the first time, he truly understood why Adeline had been placed in his care, not by chance, but by something far greater. The next day, he made a silent vow to himself, to ensure that Adeline's life would be filled with the love, security, and happiness that Margaret had always wanted for her. He didn't know what challenges lay ahead, but he knew one thing for certain: they would face them together. The days after Adeline's revelation were filled with an overwhelming sense of connection between her and Daniel. The knowledge that her mother had trusted him, even in passing, seemed to create a bridge between their pasts and their present. Adeline started to share more memories of her mother, small but meaningful glimpses into the life she had before everything changed. One quiet evening, Daniel sat with Adeline at the kitchen table. She had pulled out her sketchpad and was working on a detailed drawing of the tree from the park she had often mentioned. Daniel watched as her pencil moved across the paper, creating intricate branches and leaves. "Addie," he began, his tone careful, "I've been thinking about what you told me, about your mom mentioning me. I want you to know that I'm here to answer any questions you have, about her or anything else." Adeline looked up from her sketchpad, her eyes thoughtful. "Do you think she wanted me to find you?" she asked softly. Daniel took a moment to consider his answer. "I think your mom wanted you to be surrounded by people who cared about you," he said. "And if she saw something in me that made her trust me, then I feel honored. But I don't think she could have imagined things would work out like this." Adeline smiled faintly, her gaze dropping back to her drawing. "I like to think she's happy," she said. "Wherever she is." "She would be," Daniel said firmly. "I know she would." A few days later, Carla Rivera, the social worker, came by for her regular visit. Daniel filled her in on Adeline's progress, sharing how well she was settling in and how their bond had deepened after the discovery about her mother. Carla listened intently, her kind eyes filled with encouragement. "She's come a long way," Carla said, glancing at Adeline, who was in the living room adding finishing touches to her latest drawing. "And a lot of that is because of you, Daniel." "She's a remarkable kid," Daniel replied. "I feel lucky to have her in my life." After Carla left, Daniel found Adeline sitting on the couch, her finished drawing in her hands. She handed it to him, her expression shy but hopeful. "Do you think this looks like the tree from the park?" she asked. Daniel examined the drawing carefully. The tree was magnificent, its branches reaching toward the sky as if it were alive with energy. In the background, there was a small figure sitting beneath the tree, a child holding hands with an adult. "It's perfect," Daniel said, his voice filled with admiration. "You've captured it beautifully." Adeline beamed, and for a moment, Daniel saw her as the carefree child she was meant to be. But the moment was fleeting, as she soon grew quiet again, a pensive look crossing her face. "There's something else I've been thinking about," she said hesitantly. "About the adoption." Daniel's heart skipped a beat. "What about it?" "I want to make sure it's what you really want," Adeline said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I mean, I know you're doing this because you care about me, but, is it because you knew my mom? Or because you actually want me to stay?" Daniel knelt down in front of her, meeting her gaze directly. "Addie," he said firmly, "I'm adopting you because I want you to stay. Because you're my family now, and I can't imagine my life without you. Your mom was an amazing person, but this isn't about her. It's about us." Adeline's eyes filled with tears, and she nodded, her voice trembling. "I just wanted to make sure." "You never have to worry about that," Daniel said, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You belong here, Addie. With me." That night, Adeline curled up on the couch with Daniel, a movie playing softly in the background. She leaned against his side, her sketchpad resting on her lap, and for the first time, she seemed truly at peace. Daniel wrapped an arm around her, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for the journey that had brought them together. As Adeline drifted off to sleep, Daniel thought about the upcoming adoption hearing. It was a big step, one that would solidify everything they had built together. But as he looked at the girl sleeping beside him, he realized that, in his heart, she was already his daughter. The days ahead might bring challenges, but Daniel knew they could face them together. And for the first time in a long time, he felt a profound sense of purpose, a certainty that he was exactly where he was meant to be. The days leading up to the adoption hearing were filled with a mix of excitement and nervous anticipation. Daniel wanted everything to go smoothly, but he couldn't help but notice that Adeline seemed more reserved than usual. She spent hours in her room, sketching, but whenever Daniel asked if something was on her mind, she would simply shake her head and offer a small smile. One evening, as Daniel sat at the dining table reviewing paperwork for the hearing, Adeline approached him, clutching her sketchpad to her chest. "Can I ask you something?" she said, her voice hesitant. "Of course, Addie," Daniel replied, setting down his pen and giving her his full attention. "Do you think the judge will like me?" she asked, her eyes wide with worry. Daniel's heart ached at the vulnerability in her question. "Addie, the judge isn't there to decide if she likes you," he said gently. "She's there to make sure that you're happy and safe. And I'll be there with you the whole time. You don't have to do this alone." Adeline nodded, but the worry didn't leave her face. She sat down across from him, placing her sketchpad on the table. "There's something I've been working on," she said, opening the pad to reveal a series of drawings. The sketches depicted moments from their time together, making pancakes in the kitchen, walking through the park, and sitting on the couch watching movies. Each drawing was detailed and full of emotion, capturing the warmth and love they had shared over the months. "These are amazing," Daniel said, his voice filled with admiration. "You've captured so much, it's like you've told our story." Adeline looked down at her hands, her voice soft. "That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to show the judge what it's been like living here. How you've made me feel safe and happy." Daniel felt a lump rise in his throat. "Addie, that's beautiful," he said. "I'm so proud of you." She hesitated for a moment before speaking again. "There's something else," she said. "I wrote a letter, for the judge. Do you think I can read it during the hearing?" "Of course," Daniel said. "It's your story, Addie. You have every right to share it." The day of the hearing arrived, and Daniel could feel the tension in the air as they drove to the courthouse. Adeline sat quietly in the passenger seat, holding her sketchpad and letter tightly in her lap. Daniel glanced over at her, offering a reassuring smile. "You're going to do great," he said. The courthouse was busy, the hum of voices and footsteps filling the halls. Daniel guided Adeline to the waiting area outside the courtroom, where they were greeted by Carla Rivera. "How are you feeling, Adeline?" Carla asked, crouching down to her level. "A little nervous," Adeline admitted. "That's okay," Carla said with a warm smile. "Just remember, you have a lot of people here who care about you." When it was time to enter the courtroom, Daniel placed a hand on Adeline's shoulder. "Ready?" he asked. She nodded, her grip on her sketchpad tightening. Together, they walked into the room, where the judge, a tall woman with kind eyes and a calm demeanor, was seated at the bench. Adeline glanced up at her, then at Daniel, her expression a mix of determination and apprehension. The hearing began with formalities, as Daniel answered questions about his decision to adopt Adeline and his ability to provide for her. He spoke with sincerity, describing their life together and how much Adeline had brought into his world. When it was Adeline's turn to speak, she stood up slowly, clutching her sketchpad and letter. The room seemed to hold its breath as she walked to the front, her small frame dwarfed by the imposing courtroom. "Your Honor," she began, her voice trembling slightly, "I wrote a letter about what it's been like living with Daniel. And I made some drawings too. Can I share them?" The judge nodded, her expression softening. "Of course, Adeline. Take your time." Adeline opened her sketchpad, showing the drawings one by one. As she explained each picture, her voice grew steadier. "This is us making pancakes," she said, pointing to the first sketch. "Daniel always tries to make them perfect, even though he's not very good at flipping them." The courtroom chuckled softly, and Adeline smiled, gaining confidence. She moved on to the letter, her hands shaking slightly as she unfolded it. "I wanted to write this because Daniel has been more than just my foster dad," she said. "He's my family. He's taught me that it's okay to feel sad sometimes, and that it's okay to be myself. I never thought I'd feel safe again after losing my mom, but now I do." Tears filled Daniel's eyes as he listened to her heartfelt words. The judge leaned forward, her expression deeply moved. When Adeline finished, the courtroom was silent for a moment before the judge spoke. "Adeline, thank you for sharing that," she said. "It's clear how much you and Daniel mean to each other." As Adeline returned to her seat, Daniel reached out and squeezed her hand. "You were incredible," he whispered. "Do you think she'll say yes?" Adeline asked. "She'd be crazy not to," Daniel replied, his voice filled with pride. The judge called for a brief recess before delivering her decision. As they waited, Daniel and Adeline sat side by side, their hands clasped together. Whatever happened next, they knew they had each other, and that was all that mattered. The tension in the courtroom was palpable as everyone reconvened after the brief recess. Adeline sat close to Daniel, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, her sketchpad resting against her knees. Daniel leaned down to whisper, "No matter what happens, I'm proud of you." Adeline nodded, her face serious but determined. Across the room, Judge Marissa Caldwell returned to her seat, her calm expression revealing nothing about her decision. She adjusted her glasses and folded her hands on the bench, looking directly at Adeline and Daniel. "Before I deliver my decision," the judge began, "I want to acknowledge the courage and thoughtfulness Adeline has shown today. It's clear that she and Mr. Mercer share a bond that is built on trust, love, and mutual respect. Adeline, your words and drawings spoke volumes about the life you've built together, and I commend you for expressing yourself so beautifully." Adeline's cheeks flushed, and she lowered her gaze, a small smile playing on her lips. Daniel gave her a reassuring nod. Judge Caldwell continued. "In reviewing this case, I've taken into account not just Mr. Mercer's ability to provide for Adeline, but also the emotional connection and stability he has brought into her life. It is clear that this is not just a home, it is a family." Adeline's grip on Daniel's hand tightened as the judge paused for a moment, her expression softening. "Therefore, I am pleased to grant the adoption. Adeline Harper, you are now officially Adeline Mercer." A wave of emotion swept through the room. Adeline's eyes filled with tears as she turned to Daniel. "Did she just say?" she began, her voice trembling. "She did," Daniel said, pulling her into a tight hug. "You're officially my daughter, Addie." The courtroom erupted in applause, and Carla Rivera, who had been sitting nearby, clapped enthusiastically. The judge smiled warmly at the scene before her, clearly moved by the outpouring of love and joy. As they left the courthouse, friends and supporters who had gathered outside cheered, showering them with congratulations. Adeline beamed as people hugged her and celebrated the milestone, but she never let go of Daniel's hand. It was as if she needed to hold on to him to remind herself that this was real. Later that evening, back at home, Daniel and Adeline decided to celebrate with a quiet dinner. Adeline requested her favorite meal, mac and cheese with extra cheese, and Daniel gladly obliged. As they sat at the dining table, the atmosphere was filled with warmth and laughter. After dinner, Adeline disappeared into her room for a few minutes, returning with her sketchpad. "I have something for you," she said, her voice shy. She handed the sketchpad to Daniel, who flipped to the page she indicated. It was a drawing of the two of them standing in front of their house, holding hands. Above them, in bold, colorful letters, were the words, "Forever Family." Daniel's throat tightened as he looked at the drawing. "Addie, this is incredible," he said, his voice filled with emotion. "Thank you." Adeline shrugged, but her eyes shone with pride. "It's how I feel," she said simply. "That means the world to me," Daniel replied, pulling her into a hug. "I'm going to frame this and hang it where we can see it every day." That night, as Daniel tucked Adeline into bed, she looked up at him with a thoughtful expression. "Do you think my mom would be happy?" she asked softly. "I know she would be," Daniel said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "She loved you so much, and she'd be so proud of the amazing person you're becoming." Adeline smiled, her eyes glistening. "I'm glad I have you," she said. "I feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be." "You are," Daniel said firmly. "And I'm so glad I have you too, Addie." As he turned off the light and closed her door, Daniel felt an overwhelming sense of peace. The road they had traveled to get to this moment hadn't been easy, but it had been worth every step. He knew there were still challenges ahead, but for the first time, it felt like they had truly found their place, a home, a family, and a future filled with love and promise. The morning after the adoption hearing, the house was filled with a new sense of peace and belonging. Adeline woke up early, her room now adorned with the plants and decorations she had chosen over the months. The framed adoption certificate sat proudly on her nightstand, a tangible reminder that she was finally, officially part of a family. Daniel was already in the kitchen when she came downstairs, humming softly as he cooked breakfast. The scent of pancakes and bacon filled the air, and Adeline smiled, feeling a warmth that had nothing to do with the food. "Good morning, kiddo," Daniel greeted her, setting a plate on the table. "How's the newest Mercer doing today?" Adeline giggled and slid into her seat. "I think it sounds weird," she admitted, grinning. "But I like it." "You'll get used to it," Daniel said with a wink. "And if you don't, we can always hyphenate it with Harper." Adeline shook her head, her expression firm. "No, I want to be Adeline Mercer. It feels right." Daniel's chest swelled with emotion. "Then Mercer it is," he said, raising his coffee mug like a toast. After breakfast, Daniel surprised Adeline by announcing a special outing. "I thought we could spend the day doing whatever you want," he said. "Consider it a celebration of your first official day as a Mercer." Adeline's face lit up. "Really? Anything?" "Anything within reason," Daniel replied with a chuckle. Adeline thought for a moment before deciding. "Can we go to the park? The one with the big tree?" "Absolutely," Daniel said, grabbing their jackets. "Let's go." When they arrived at the park, Adeline immediately ran to the massive oak tree that had become a symbol of her connection to her past and her new life. She sat down beneath its sprawling branches, pulling out her sketchpad and pencils. Daniel watched her from a bench a few feet away, giving her space but staying close enough to feel present. He couldn't help but marvel at how far they had come. The shy, reserved girl who had first entered his home had blossomed into a confident and creative young person with a bright future ahead of her. "Daniel!" Adeline called, breaking his thoughts. "Come look at this." He walked over to find her holding up a drawing. It was of the tree they were sitting under, but with an added detail: two figures, a man and a young girl, sitting side by side beneath the branches. Above them, she had written in delicate script, "Home is where love grows." Daniel felt his throat tighten as he stared at the drawing. "Addie," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "this is beautiful." "It's us," she explained, her cheeks flushing slightly. "I wanted to show what this place means to me. It's like where everything started." Daniel crouched down beside her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "And it's where everything continues," he said. "You've made this family feel whole, Addie. I hope you know that." Adeline leaned against him, her small frame relaxing into his. "I do," she said quietly. "And I'm glad I found you." That evening, they returned home and hung the drawing in the living room, just above the fireplace. It joined the other mementos they had collected, a growing tapestry of memories that told the story of their journey. As night fell, Daniel tucked Adeline into bed, the glow of the fairy lights she had chosen casting a soft warmth across the room. She looked up at him, her voice filled with quiet certainty. "Do you think my mom knows?" she asked. "That I'm happy?" "I think she does," Daniel replied, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "And I think she's proud of you. Just like I am." Adeline smiled, her eyes glistening. "I love you, Dad," she said, the word feeling natural and true for the first time. Daniel felt his heart swell. "I love you too, Addie," he said. "Good night." "Good night," she whispered, her eyes closing as she drifted into a peaceful sleep. As Daniel left her room and turned off the light, he stood for a moment in the quiet hallway, reflecting on how far they had come. What had begun as a simple act of kindness had turned into something extraordinary, a family built not by blood, but by love, trust, and resilience. For the first time in years, Daniel felt truly content. Their journey hadn't been easy, but it had been worth every step. Together, he and Adeline had found something priceless: home, a family, and a future filled with endless possibilities. This story is a poignant reminder that family is not defined by blood, but by love, trust, and the courage to choose one another. Daniel and Adeline's journey highlights the power of resilience and the healing strength of human connection. Their bond, forged through shared struggles and unwavering support, is a testament to the idea that the families we build can be just as meaningful as those we're born into. Adeline's transformation from a guarded, grieving child to a confident and creative young girl is deeply moving. Her ability to open her heart again, despite the pain of her past, shows an incredible strength that resonates with all of us. Daniel's journey is equally inspiring. His willingness to step into the role of a parent with compassion and determination reflects the profound impact that one person's kindness can have on another's life. The revelation about Daniel's past connection to Adeline's mother adds a layer of depth and fate to their story, making their bond feel all the more significant. It's as if life had been preparing both of them for this moment, proving that even in the most unexpected circumstances, we can find purpose and belonging. The ending is a perfect culmination of their journey, filled with hope, warmth, and the promise of a brighter future. It leaves us with the uplifting message that, no matter the hardships we face, love has the power to rebuild and redefine what family truly means. This is a story of second chances, healing, and the extraordinary ways that lives can intersect to create something beautiful.